right. Hi, everybody. It's Kari, your empowerment coach, and I'm coming to you live in week 3 of 10 in a special limited series leading us into the new year, where I'm bringing on special guests to share their stories of how they took back control of their lives so that they could live the life that they want to live. So I've got a guest joining me today for week number 3. Let me see if I can get him on here today. I'm so bad at this. Okay.
What?
All right. I got you. You're on. We figured it out.
It's always a question with me every time.
Every time. It's good to see you. So tell us first of all, thank you so much for joining me. Will you, I've already introduced myself, so how about you introduce yourself to everybody here? I'm going to see if I can get more people to join us too.
Sure. So as we invite more folks into this chit chat, Dr. Sam Jennings, and for all of y'all listening, I'm just Sam, just another guy. I rode a lot, read a lot, earned it, but still, I'm just Sam. So I am in Post Falls, Idaho, and that doesn't really register on the map. So imagine the state of Washington in the States, where Seattle is, go directly east, straight to hit Spokane, and then plop over the Idaho border, and then that's where I am. And I'm right now in a place called Corbin Park. And, I don't really pay attention to when sun sets exactly, but I'll have sunlight here for a while. I had a great shot earlier that's kind of gone away, but I'm going to tip out of the scene because right behind me, if you can see through the window there, that's the Spokane River. So I'm right in the middle of nowhere. So this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, your office tonight is definitely better than mine. So.
The carcass is wherever I take it.
The Carfus, I love it. So, yeah, I'm doing a limited series here, 10 weeks leading us into the new year to inspire people to kick off with actually just following through and taking back control of their lives. And I put the request out there. You answered my call because you've basically made some major changes in your life in recent times. So, can you give us a highlight of the story we might hear today?
Right. So the highlight is I had a career in higher education for a couple of decades. It wasn't like I had a little dabbling. It was a while. I moved around, hit 4 states. And Kari, if you want me to go through the whole story, I can. But the short version is we moved away from family and told them in the middle of this process. I'm going to scoot down so my whole face is in the eyesight. Oh, look at that. I got a whole face. So when we moved out of the area, of course, we'll move back, of course, right job, right circumstance. And then fast forward 20 years, my mom's youngest sister passed away. So I came out to the Pacific Northwest for the services, and that sort of sparked the thought process. Went back home, talked to my wiser half, and we basically said, what are we doing? What are we waiting for? Parents aren't getting any younger. Kids don't know their grandparents. We have our jobs, but we don't have our people. So we resigned our jobs, sold our house, and left.
Wow.
What now? Whole plan. Let's just go. Gone anywhere if it hadn't been for the grace of family, because we ended up living with them and just for their generosity. And if we hadn't had that, there would have been no change, no transition whatsoever.
Wow. Yeah. So I want to touch on a little bit, if you don't mind sharing some more of what you were thinking before you made that decision. How did things feel for you? What was going on in your head at the time right before you made the decision?
Sure. So the pieces of the puzzle came together for us. I mentioned I was living in the Midwest. My brother is close by here to all of our family. And my mom had a lot of health issues. And so every time something would come up and she'd go back to the ER, my brother would call and tell me what's going on. I'd say, that's terrible. Thanks for letting me know. And if I can do it 2 time zones away, I'd be happy to. But I clearly can't. So here I sit, waiting and wondering and hoping for the best. A couple of times when I ended up flying out just to do some checks and so forth. But mostly it was a function of I can't be of service to anybody, to my immediate family, if I'm so far away. Now I have to be right on top, like we are happy to be. I was saying within a day's drive would be just fine. But the way that my job search was going, wasn't finding the right positions in the right places. And a move had been a move, but not a move to where we wanted to be. Instead of just going for the adventurous move, we went for a specified get close to people move.
Okay. Yeah. So, but you did. I also heard you say though that you did this without a plan, really, and I think that that's a message that people a lot of times they think they've got to have all their ducks in a row. They've got to have everything lined up perfectly before they make those kinds of big moves. Can you tell us a little bit more about what do you mean when you say you had no plan, and how did it feel doing this big move without a plan?
Oh, we'll go to the second part. It sucked. It did not feel warm and toasty. We'll just put that out there. However, I also knew that we were doing the right thing. So when I say no plan, we had a bit of a parachute, right? We knew we wouldn't be homeless. We knew that we would have support. So that was done. What I didn't anticipate was I would have such a hard time finding work. I left a job as a dean of students. And when I interviewed for jobs, in fact, one person actually asked me, "You've been in academia for 20 years. Why do you want to throw it all away?" And it floored me. Like, I don't understand the question. I refused the premise, basically, but I couldn't articulate why or what I thought the answer was because it surprised me. What I didn't anticipate was the need for me to articulate how my experience with crisis management, conduct matters, personnel matters, all that stuff would work for another organization or business. So that was part of the part that was difficult to transition into. And not having a plan, we had the basics. We figured out. It didn't go how I thought it might go. And I didn't know I was going into coaching. I didn't know I had been a coach for 20 years, so I started learning about it and unpacking what it meant. So I don't recommend that folks just completely go without anything. Have something, some kind of a not backup plan, but a soft landing-ish, right? Because not everybody can just say, great, resign, sold the house, now what? We had a now what? And so to advise people just to, hey, jump and go. Well,
Yeah.
you live in your car, that's not cute. That's not, nobody wants to be there.
I know people who do live in their cars, though, and I know it's a lifestyle now that we live in our cars. I mean, I'm considering it for myself, honestly.
Yeah, there's the intentional, I got a van down by the river on purpose versus the, oh my gosh, what have I done? Yeah.
Yeah. So what about though you said it didn't go the way that you planned? I know that people, that can be scary for them too, because even when you do make the leap and you say, I've at least got some concept of what I'm wanting here, how did you handle when you did hit those roadblocks and you thought, this is not where I saw this going?
Right, for sure. So we moved in with family. It was for 3 to 6 months. That was the plan. And before I ever left South Dakota, one individual who is pretty direct in a good way, said, your wife's going to have an easier time finding work than you are. Sure. And she's really good at what she does, and she also prefers entry-level kinds of roles. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I didn't anticipate me not getting any real solid looks. In fact, one interview I had was right in my lane for a nonprofit, and they were nervous because they'd had a prior individual who had also been in Dean of Students sign on for them, say, yes, I'm in, I'm ready to do this, let's go, and then quit 3 months later because they got another Dean of Students job. Okay. And so they expected to hire me based on that background. So it didn't go how I wanted. I didn't expect to be overqualified and underqualified for everything I applied for. So what I do then was not reevaluate everything in terms of, just the resume and all that kind of repackaging. Like, what else is there to do? I will work for me. So let's try this out and see how that goes, because I can hire me. Now, I have other people I have to pay the bills to make that happen. But I started off with doing what I knew, and that was helping college students. So I started helping college students through college, and I'll tell you the absolute truth, so naive. I got my business license, got my website, everything's looking great, looking cute, put out an ad on Facebook, and I expected to not be able to handle all the traffic, because who wouldn't want a dean of students helping a kid through college? Of course. And they would want my service. And there was absolutely zero response. So that's what I started thinking, maybe it's not the enrollment that matters. Maybe it's just people who need a little help getting unstuck. And realizing that coaching was a thing, and changed my my business model to adults going through this process, because they're not 18 doesn't mean you don't have struggles. So let's help business people through their leadership roles and that kind of thing, which is where I did my dissertation. So it all made sense. It took time for it to make sense. I didn't just decide, this is exactly what I'll do.
Yeah.
It's been a process that's been both hindered and helped by the pandemic. and didn't see that coming either.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I want to tap in though on what you said before about how you were identifying your strengths and you basically figured out how to take what you were doing as a dean of students before and you transfer that into an entirely different career path by calling out your strengths.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah,
So
and go ahead.
yeah, specifically in any administrative role, there's going to be the goopy stuff, right? The things that people act like they don't like. Some people like it. I didn't mind the meetings. I didn't mind the debate. I didn't mind the conversation. What I minded was the things I did that I was responsible for, and it made sense, but took me away from student success. That's where I get my highest frustration. So if I spent a lot of time doing a thing that was for a compliance matter or for somebody else's project that just really didn't affect students succeeding in college, it was hard for me to appreciate that. So when I backed out and realized my dean role, I liked being dean of students. Okay, fine. What did you like about it? I'm asking myself these questions. And it was sitting across from that student, listening to their story and not listening for how am I going to get out of the situation, but how am I going to pull which lever to ease their path to where they're going, even if it's leaving the institution. And that was the case for a student who came in with, I think it was 5 different issues. And faculty identified, there's a cancer scare, there's loss of daycare, all these issues. And I was speaking with him, and it turns out he wanted to go drive a freight truck. Like, that's it? You want to drive a truck? I said, yeah. Please go drive a truck. I will unenroll you today if that's what you want. And he's like, you do that? So why wouldn't I do that? Why would I make you stay here and earn, a transcript full of F's that you hate and have that be your permanent record when you know you don't want to be here? Let's figure out a way for you not to be here. I said, however, give it a night. Go talk to your people, sleep on it, come back tomorrow. If that's your decision, we'll do it. If not, we'll figure out a different plan. So it was that kind of aspect, that story that makes me think that's what I want to do with people. Now, in that case, I have left. I could say, I will unenroll you. For other folks, I can't. I can just say, here are the things I think you could do that may cause you some relief. You need to decide for you. And let's talk that through. But I will have that luxury of saying, here's the paperwork, it's a done deal. So that's a big difference, but the core of it's all the same. Listening for the story, ignoring the noise, and getting down to the signal. What do you actually tell me?
Yeah, and when you focused in on what is it about my job that I do like, and you narrowed it down there, that's what helped guide you to this new path, right? Because you said you were dean of students, and now you're doing an independent, working for yourself entrepreneurship as a coach. So you did a whole shift too in the way that you were working, the atmosphere you were working. So how has that transition been for you?
Right, that transition's been. Well, it lives in 2 worlds. It's been really good, really positive, and really a struggle. So really good, really positive is I've gotten 4 more certifications in different areas. I'm working on a 5th one because I like learning. It's kind of fun for me. I like doing new things with people, and I like the coaching aspect itself because I'm kind of good at it. What is not going as smoothly is just the business operation that I didn't really fully appreciate would have to happen. I mean, I knew it cognitively, but the doing of it is different than I expected. So it's making sure I'm doing lead generation, running the business as a business, not just as an opportunity to talk to somebody, which sounds like it's all the same thing, but there's things I've learned along the way. I wish I could have learned quicker. But even when I started, I got my business license in 2019. I didn't know then that I wanted to be a coach specifically. I didn't know what that meant, but I had to learn as I went, which has been a long process. Worth it, but it's not been simple, not by any means, but it's worth the effort for sure.
Yeah, and when you say it's not been simple, I'm sure there are a lot of people who have also tried entrepreneurship, that sort of thing. So how do you keep yourself engaged or motivated, or how do you keep yourself showing up every day knowing that it's not been as simple as you would have liked it to be?
Right. So there's 2 specific parts to that. One part is my old life wasn't simple either. It shouldn't be simple. That's not a requirement. The part 2 is, and I'm less good at this part because it's really good advice, but it's hard to live through. It's from Gary Keller. Have you earned the opportunity to do the thing you want to do? So am I doing the nuts and bolts of day to day to earn the opportunity to coach somebody, right? So trying to set up sort of a internal incentivizing process where if I do what I'm supposed to do, I get to do what I want to do. And so I keep trying to push through that. And frankly, I don't always know what I'm supposed to do because it's just me. So how do I know if placing this ad with this language in this space is the right way to go? I don't know until I try it. And there's those unknowns where previously I loved ambiguity. I still kind of like it. I'm less of a fan when I'm running a business. I kind of like to know, is this going to work or not? Because otherwise, let's not, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the struggles.
Yeah, that's a challenge, right? We want to know that if I do this, I'm going to get this result, and it's going to, we set ourselves up for expectations, and we want to have those met. And
Oh, at least give me a range. I mean, it's not a range. That's just, probability. 20 to 40 is a fine range if you can identify it. But so far, hey, I don't know, man.
Yeah, but given, I liked what you said before, though, about how what you were doing before wasn't easy. And
Right.
you made these huge shifts and these big changes, and it's not quite going maybe the pace or the volume that you wanted to, but do you feel like it was still the right move for you, or how do you feel about the change that you made?
Right. Yeah. So the move was the right move. The how I feel about the change is the primary change I would make is the pace. I kind of just sort of glanced over the pandemic. That was no help. I had a couple contracts ready to go March 2020. Well, shut down, you can't do much. And it took a long time for all of us to figure out what now, how do we do this. And now things are opening up. I'm making contacts, which is good. But I would have liked to have been here at least a year ago. I just didn't know, right? And then the pandemic, like I said, didn't do us any favors. So that's the main thing I do differently is just the pace.
Yeah, and what do you say to people, though, who find themselves perhaps in the same position where they're not where they want to be and they didn't get as far as they'd set themselves up? What would you tell